there is always something you can do. That person is somebody's mother, sister, daughter, or son, brother. That person, at the end of the day, deserves safety.
Hello and welcome to my first podcast on behalf of the Willow Project. So this is Beyond the Silence, and it's just another way that we can improve our reach into the community and really highlight awareness of domestic abuse in rural areas. And with that, I'm really excited to introduce to you Emily Brailsford, and she's here today to talk about bystanders and the importance of being an active bystander. So Emily's background is that she actually worked on the Willow Project when it first started up, and she herself is a survivor of domestic abuse, and particularly rural domestic abuse. She's active in all sorts of different organisations, supporting women around domestic abuse and education. So I'm going to invite Emily now to introduce herself and tell you a bit more about her. Okay, Emily?
Thank you for that introduction. Makes me sound very grand.
You are very grand.
So, yeah, I started working on the Willow Project when it was conceived in 2020, and I worked on it for about 3 years, but then I got the chance to go and work nationally for an organisation called Mothers Union. So I worked down in Westminster once a week, which was lovely. The travel wasn't so great though, so after about 2 years I decided that I couldn't manage that anymore.
Did you like the hustle and bustle of London though while it lasted?
I loved it, but I loved coming home again.
Yeah.
I loved coming home and coming out of the city, and then the train, it comes into the open fields and, I'm back home.
The rurality, the green grass.
Yeah, much. It's nice, but it's nice to go down to London, but it's nice to come home. But one of the things I did whilst I was in the Mothers Union was deliver bystander training online to our members. We've got over 40,000 members in the UK. Obviously not all of those came to the bystander training.
I'm going to say that's a big Zoom call.
Yeah. But we did train a lot of our ladies about being good bystanders and active bystanders. So we had quite a bit of education to do around what a potential domestic abuse victim could look like.
Yeah.
And what they might not look like. Obviously, it's not always a single mum who lives on a block of flats on a housing estate with, low education levels. It can be a doctor. Yeah. It can be, a person that's been married for years. And maybe I should just say that, obviously, I'm going to talk about domestic abuse primarily using a female as the victim and a male as the perpetrator, but absolutely we do know that men can be victims as well.
Absolutely.
It's just that statistically, sorry, you go on.
Oh, I was just going to say statistics shows that it's 1 in 4 women, 1 in 7 men. It's pertinent that we use a female in this scenario. So yeah, lovely. So can you explain what the bystander theory is? Can you give us a bit of an overview?
I can try.
Go for it.
So the term, I think, really was coined in around 1964. It's social psychology. There was a murder of a lady called Kitty Genovese. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right.
And it's in New York, wasn't it?
It was. And they found out that 37 bystanders saw or heard the attack but didn't help. And so obviously a study was done into why this happened, and the intervention was developed, the 5 Ds, which give examples of ways you could potentially help out the situation, not necessarily but by becoming involved although that is one of the 5Ds. But yeah, I knew more about it actually from 2012. I know it was used in university campuses to help intervene when people were being receiving unwanted attention, shall we say.
Yeah.
And an organisation called Green Dot kind of really got the bystander intervention, the 5Ds, out there and made it a lot more popular and educated a lot of people around the 5Ds.
Yeah. So just to go into it a bit more, the reason that this was needed, I'm just going to go back on what you were saying about Kitty and that there were 37 people. I know that one of those people, he'd actually hung out his window and shouted, "Leave that girl alone." And it was while he'd stabbed her. And the perpetrator went away, so he got back in bed. And while he got back in bed, the perpetrator actually came back and stabbed her again fatally. And there is, in this theory, they talk about multiples of people. If there's multiples of people, everybody thinks that somebody else will do something about it.
Yeah.
And everybody else thinks they're going to do something about it. I don't need to get involved. Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about why you think people feel like they can't get involved or don't want to get involved? What do you think?
Well, I would imagine that a lot of that is I don't want to get involved because I might get turned on. They might punch me. I might get verbally abused or physically abused. Also, I think us Brits can be quite private sometimes.
Yeah,
and,
stiff upper lip.
Yeah, it's none of my business. Let's just keep out of it. There's still people say, it's a domestic. Just leave it to them. Let them, don't get involved. It's none of our business. So I think that's one reason why people think there's no need to get involved.
Yeah. And I suppose there's a worry that maybe they've misread the situation. Yeah. Maybe, what they think is happening isn't happening. They don't want to look foolish.
Absolutely.
But in reality to that, you know yourself that if somebody asks, "Are you okay?" or tries to diffuse something, they're just doing a kind act.
Absolutely.
It's an act of kindness, and you would never, and at worst, what could they say? Mind your own business.
Yeah.
Mind your own business. You walk away. You got it wrong. Get on with your day.
Yeah.
You still did a good deed. You still tried. Yeah.
And I'd much rather have done that good deed and been told to go away.
Yeah.
Than,
in a certain way.
Than to have not asked, "Are you okay?" and find out that later that afternoon that person was murdered.
Yeah. So in rural communities, when looking at it from, we know the close-knit and I'd say people probably notice more what's going on in a rural community because everybody knows everything.
Absolutely.
Can you tell me about your experience living in rural communities and how you think people could be more active bystanders in a rural community?
It's really interesting you should say that because I was talking to a lady yesterday and talking about being a woman and walking home at night. And I said that I would frequently walk home at night when I was a young person from the nightclub in Matlock. And
the nightclub in Matlock.
I was just thinking about that. I was just thinking, well,
know there was one.
I'm showing my age. It was probably the Pavilion in Matlock Bath, and I used to walk back from the Pav and walk to my own house, which is at the top of Slack Hill.
And was it more of a stumble than a walk?
It may have been. And in those days, before children, I was wearing a lot less coverage than what I do nowadays. Yeah. But I never felt worried. Maybe I should have done. Yeah. Maybe this was foolish. Maybe it's, a young person being foolish. But because I'd grown up in Matlock and I knew everyone. I knew the taxi drivers. I knew the bouncers. And, I knew the people dotted along the road from the path to my house. So and that is one of the great joys of living in a little village. I've lived here my entire life.
Yeah, and actually, your family history is very long. It fascinates me.
Yeah. So my maternal side of my family have lived in Matlock for the last 300-400 years. So
Yeah.
And I live in a house that my ancestors built, and yeah. So, and my parents never moved away. My dad was an incomer. He came from Langley Mill, miles away.
Wow,
You know,
all the way.
fresh
Langley
blood.
Mill.
But my maternal grandparents lived and had a shop in the town centre. My granddad was a county councillor. So everybody knew me. I worked in one of the local pubs, and everybody knew me, and I knew loads of people. And if they didn't know me, they knew my family. I had all my cousins around me, you know, and wider family living around me. So yeah, I did always feel safe walking about in after a night out. However, it really did work against me when I was a victim of domestic abuse, because I was embarrassed. Well, no, first of all, I didn't realise it was abuse because he never actually punched me.
Yeah.
He would sort of push me about and you know.
And this is really common, isn't it?
Yeah.
That people see it as he was having a bad day, he had
Yeah.
a temper that day.
Yeah.
And I suppose you don't want to believe it either, do
No.
you? So you're chalking it up to...
And this was in sort of 2003, 2004. Coercive control hadn't been named.
No.
We know it was happening, but it hadn't got that name. It hadn't got that education. I thought because I didn't have a black eye or a split lip, it wasn't domestic abuse. But going back to the sense of community, I knew something wasn't right, and I was embarrassed. And I was pregnant, and I could see no way out. I'd made my bed. I had to lie in it, and I didn't want. I also knew that some of my cousins would have beat 7 bells out of him.
Out of him, yeah.
So I kept it a secret. I knew my dad would have gone crazy, so I didn't tell anyone. So what I'm trying to say is, whilst on the one hand living rurally is beautiful, it's that sense of community that you know, having your family, but on the other side it can actually be quite isolating. But as bystanders, when we talk about bystanders, I do think rurally, because everybody knows everybody, you know, hold on a minute, you know, that's not right. Or you possibly know, I know he can be a bit when he's had a drink or two, or even not when he's had a drink or two, you know, you do know things. But again, maybe it works a different way, where because you know them, it's like, oh, if I say something, I'm going to get, you know, branded as...
He won't talk to me again. Yeah. If I get it wrong. I've got it wrong. Yeah. So would you say then that there's opportunity for someone to step in as a bystander in a rural...
So the bystander theory, as I say, the one that was coined and really developed by Green Dot, works on 5 different Ds, and they are distract, delegate, document, delay, and direct. So I think really, wherever you live, wherever you come from, whatever part of society you're in, you can use one of these. So I don't know, do you want me to go through them?
Yeah, I think so. I think if we start with distract, so I think as an example, you've come across a man and a woman outside a pub, and they're arguing. They're having an argument. There's a heated debate, and then he slaps her. He slaps her around her face, and she's sobbing. Puts her head down. She's not asking for help. She's not crying out to anyone. In that situation, what would be a good way to distract? Because it can feel scary. You've seen violence, you know, you're not a confrontational person. How do you make that situation safe for yourself, but still making sure you know, you're an active bystander. You're not just letting this happen.
Yeah. I mean, in all fairness, if I was seeing the heated debate, I would probably intervene before it got to the physical violence.
Yeah.
So I might drop my keys in, you know, nearby. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to drop the keys. Or, oh, do you know what time the next bus is? Or have you? Oh, you can even pretend you know the person, or if you do know the person, I've not seen you for ages. What are you doing? How are you doing? Or you know, accidentally just have to walk in between the two people and to get into the pub or out of the pub, or you know.
If you feel confident, you can just say, "Are you okay?
Yeah,
are you okay? What's happening here?
And that would,
do you need help?"
That would probably be, well, that would be really direct. So that's directly intervening. So another way you can intervene is by directly asking, "Are you okay there? What's going off?" I used to use the example of, say you're stood at a bar or sat round at a table having a meal, and somebody tells a sexist joke. So we're not even talking about domestic abuse. We're talking about possibly misogyny. It could be racism, you know, anything at all. Somebody says a racist joke. You could say, "Do you know what? We don't talk like that anymore. That's really out of date. We don't make jokes about women being in the kitchen. It's 2026.
Yeah. And if you imagine a man with a group of men round him, that would be hard to object.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That would be quite hard for some masculine man having to stand up and say, actually. But you can still do that in a way that's, you know, I can't believe that you felt comfortable saying that to me.
Yeah.
Like, how did you say that to me and feel like that was going to be all right?
And that's just one example of how men can be allies, and they can show the disapproval of this.
Yeah.
You know, you can be an ally and wear your white ribbon and stand up against domestic abuse and
calling it out. Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's a direct way, like I say, intervening, saying that kind of language, those kind of jokes isn't okay, or even if we're going back to this argument, do you really think it's okay to talk to your girlfriend like that?
Yeah.
Another one of the 5 Ds is delegate. Let's go with delegate.
Yeah.
So this is a good one if you really don't want to get involved, if you feel that you are not a person that could get involved, but somebody needs to do something.
Yeah.
I used to give the example of, say you're on a bus or maybe in a supermarket where there's a security guard. Get someone who's a bit more official. So say to the bus driver, look, there's a person on this bus, she's receiving unwanted attention. Could you stop the bus and maybe talk to them whilst I make a note of what's happening?
Yeah.
So it's delegating that authority, going up to a security guard and saying, there's a situation around the corner, can you just go and intervene? I will make notes. I might even video it on my phone, so that there is evidence. So it's delegating that authority. Again, it doesn't necessarily need to be someone in a position of authority. If you yourself are not confident enough to intervene, you could, but you see that somebody else is looking at the situation, is expressing their own concern. They know what's happening. You might give them the confidence by saying, look, I'll make notes, I'll video, I'll stand behind you or beside you. Shall we do this together?
Yeah. And that's part of the bystander theory as well, isn't it? That once one person comes forward and takes action, other people follow.
Absolutely.
Other people follow. And it's just been that one brave person who says, actually, this doesn't look okay, or that conversation's not right, not something I want to hear, and I'm sure other people don't.
No.
It just takes for that one person to stick their hand up and
let's do something.
Yeah.
And I talked about in the delegate D, I talked about documenting, so possibly videoing a situation, or at the very least writing down the date, the time, the location. You know, I was on the X17 bus. I saw a man in a red coat and a woman in a black jacket, and he said XYZ. So documenting it, and you could always go up to the victim afterwards and say, look, I'm sorry I didn't say anything at the time. I didn't feel confident enough to, but I've made a note of what happened. Is there any way I can help you? Would you like me to go to the police station or make a phone call with you? I witnessed what happened.
Yeah.
So that's another way that you can help out without throwing yourself in the midst of the situation.
Yeah, and it's so important that documenting, because that could be the evidence somebody needs later on down the line when they're ready to report their perpetrator. You know, just a normal event in the street could be that, you know, that's sort of something that's going to lead to a prosecution down the line, or you know, highlighting it by saying this isn't right. You know, as we spoke in the way of racist comments, things like that. It's showing support and being an ally for other people. And I always think to myself, if it was one of my children, my husband, my mum, I would hope that somebody would step in and, you know, stop that from happening.
Yeah.
I would really hope that there'd be somebody brave enough to just say, and when I say brave, I don't mean as in confrontational. What I mean is brave enough to say, this isn't right. Can I help you? Or is there someone I can ring? What can I do? It's just so that one person stood there on their own while whatever it is happening directed at them knows there's somebody else there for them and that they're supported. So, okay.
So the 50.
Oh, I was missing the 50.
The 50. So again, we sort of covered it a little bit in document.
Delay.
Is the delay.
Yeah.
So again, that's the going in after the event and saying, are you okay?
Yeah.
Do you need anything? You might not have even been able to document.
Yeah.
But can you go up to them afterwards and say, do you need a hot drink? Do you need a cup of tea, love?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly that. There's
again,
not much tea doesn't fix.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think that is it's that reassurance that what you just
alone.
experienced wasn't right.
Yeah.
And I recognise that, and I recognise that you were in a situation there that was hard for you. It's that recognition and validation.
Absolutely. And I think validation is really important because, again, if you're that victim and nobody intervenes, you might think,
this is normal.
Yeah, because nobody's helping me, so it must just be normal.
Yeah.
So for someone to come in and say, are you okay? That might just be that one thing that makes the victim think, this isn't right.
Yeah.
I need to...
Their eye-opening moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we've talked about why somebody wouldn't want to intervene, and I just really want to put that in a little bit more context. So talking about myths, doing a bit of myth busting, and we touched upon, you know, somebody might feel like it's none of my business. Well, actually, it can be anybody's business. It's whether you morally, you know, feel that it's okay just to let that happen. And I don't think anyone should feel it's okay to walk past somebody in the street who are in need of help and support, or your neighbour that you can hear through the walls screaming, or, you know.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, that victim, whether they are male or female, there's someone's sister, someone's mum, someone's daughter, someone's son, someone's brother. They are deserving of safety and, you know, reassurance, and they deserve to live their life in safety. They are always somebody important. So absolutely, it's everyone's business. Yeah. We know that safeguarding. We hear, you know, safeguarding is everyone's business. Well, domestic abuse is everyone's business too.
Yeah.
And I know in the Willow Project training, we talk about how much domestic abuse costs the economy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, it costs something like 66 billion, I think the last statistics showed. So it's everyone's business. We all need to do our part to stop this scourge on society, this pandemic of abuse that's happening.
And I feel like the more people that are raising awareness, the better. I've got a LinkedIn profile, and I'm seeing more and more now employers signing up to the Employers Initiative on Domestic Abuse, which is absolutely fantastic. We've signed up to that as well. Our policy is coming into fruition. Obviously, we deliver training anyway, but making sure that all the team know that if there is anything, you know, at home, anything that's happening that doesn't feel right, there is someone to talk to here. We've got someone trained. And I think it'd be great to see that happening in other businesses. When you think 1 in 4 people, look at your head count, look at your staff head count, and then just imagine 1 in 4 people are victims of domestic abuse. And, you know, them coming in late because the husband's hid the keys, whatever it could be, the fact that they'll be suffering with insomnia, they'll be suffering with depression, anxiety, having sick days because of it, that's costing the business anyway. And then to think that actually you could be supporting your team just by putting in a simple policy, just by talking about being a bystander, having things in place that means that staff members know where to go and speak to if they've got concerns about someone they're working with, that they can go and have those conversations, or that they're empowered to be an active bystander, that they're not going to get in trouble with HR because they turn around and said, stop saying that, that's not right, and, you know, stuck up for somebody. So that's really important. And if I was to ask you now, if there's one thing that you can get out there to leave our listeners with today, what would it be? What do you really want people to know on the subject of being a bystander?
I think there is always something you can do. Going back to what I'm saying is that person is somebody's mother, sister, daughter, or son, brother, you know, uncle. That person at the end of the day deserves safety. That's the main thing. But then it's remembering that there's always something that could be done, even if all you do at the end of the day is documenting what you've seen and going up to the person afterwards. That's you're not getting stuck in the midst of it. You're not going in there on a silver horse, you know. But
you can even do it as an online form with the police, can't you? It doesn't have to be you physically getting in your car and going to somebody. It can be done so easily now, can't it?
Absolutely. And that piece of evidence could be so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, it's making sure that people know that one small thing can make such a massive difference. And difference to that person on that day as well. Knowing that we said it before, validated. Knowing
they're not
that
alone.
That they're supported, and really knowing that villages can be safer as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Rural communities can be safer. Because they've already got that uniqueness of being a small community, knowing each other, and yes, that can have a devastating effect on a victim because it goes the other way for them.
It can, but there's so many positives. Like I say, you know, I could not live anywhere else. I could never live anywhere else. I've always lived here and will always live here. So
making those communities safe for them to stay in. You know, let's make it so that everybody feels like they can stay where they belong. I mean, your family heritage is here. It's here. And, you know, to think of you in a situation where your perpetrator, if he'd have stayed here and you'd have had to have left.
Yeah,
that,
well, I
that would have
couldn't.
been devastating.
I couldn't. That's why I couldn't leave. People often say to me now, what would you have done if he hadn't have left? Because he left and moved in with the girl that I thought was my best friend. But he left, and if he hadn't, I'd have still been a victim, or I'd have been dead.
Yeah.
So, because I could not leave. I could not leave my house. At that time, it was the house I'd been born in. I'd lived there for 23 years. I lived there until 2 years ago and moved 200 yards up the road.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So you can see it on your way past every morning.
Yeah. But I would have still been there. So, yeah. I've forgotten where this started.
No, we're really talking about the importance of making these places safer because, you know, your family, like, why should you have had to have left, you know, your heritage? Why should you have had to have left a place where your family had been for so long?
Yeah.
And the reality is, thinking an urban situation, you would have been very unhappy and you wouldn't have gone into it. So it would have been a case of you keep coming back and like you say, then the danger is elevated so that actually in reality it's a possibility, a real possibility that you could have been killed in that. You might not have survived that relationship.
No
but thankfully you did, and thankfully who you thought was a friend has taken that problem away from you. Okay.
Yeah.
It has been absolutely lovely talking to you today, Emily. You're really knowledgeable, and you can really tell you've got such a passion for making sure that nobody is in that same situation as what you were in.
Absolutely.
Making sure it's recognised. You're always doing your best to raise the awareness of it. And I just want to say thank you for that, and on behalf of the Willow Project and Beyond the Silence. Just for any listeners who need support, if this has stirred anything up for you, I hope it has. I hope it's stirred thoughts up for everyone. I'm sure you can think of a time where you've been a bystander and not been active, and I hope this makes you think about how you can be an active bystander in the future. And I just really want to give out some support for anyone that might be going through something similar as we've spoken about today. So we've got the Derbyshire Domestic Abuse Helpline, which is 08000198668. That's 08000198668, and that's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If it's an emergency, please call 999. Okay. And really, just to sign off, I hope everyone's got an insight today into the realities of rural domestic abuse and the real barriers that are there. I want to thank you all for listening, and if you just do one thing today, is just be kind. Thank you.